Hello everyone, my name is Leidy Ashilia, Cahyaningrum. I want to explain about the study of language. The first, I will discuss about language definition. What is the language definition? Language is a system of symbols and rules that enable us to communicate with other people. Language is an important part for humans because it is important to distinguish between humans and animals. The main components of language are divided into several kinds, namely, number one is phonology. Phonology is the science of linguistics that studies and analyzes the sound patterns of language, the structure of sounds, and the rules in language. Number two is morphology. Morphology is a linguistic science that studies the form and internal structure of words about word forms, clauses, and sentences, and can have meaning in language. Number three is syntax. Syntax is a linguistic science that studies the arrangement of words in sentences that are appropriate and meaningful with the rules or roles that apply in language. And number four is semantics. Semantics is a linguistic science that studies the meaning or meaning contained in a language, which not only studies meaning but also grammar and semantics elements that represent varied meanings. In addition, language also has several important functions, namely, number one is language as system. Every language contains two systems, namely the sound system and the meaning system. The sound system is a system that allows a sound to be used repeatedly in various combinations to form a meaning, and a meaning system is a system that organizes an infinite number of meanings. For example, the cat to the table, the rabbit to the yard edge. Number two is language as arbitrary. The definition of arbitrary in itself does not mean that anything about language is unpredictable, because language doesn't vary in all possible ways. The meaning is that sometimes we cannot predict a language correctly in a certain place if we are not familiar with the language, and there will be no way to predict a word if we only hear it and don't see it directly. In linguistics, arbitrary is the absence of a natural or necessary connection between the meaning of a word and its sound or form. It also refers to the fact that the symbols that people use are created without principles, logic, or reason. For example, Japanese people do not have the principle or logic to call an animal with a long tail two hands and two legs, and also likes to stretch and play in trees as cat, while the people of Jakarta have no logic to call the animal a monkey. How was language created? When a group of people creates a new symbol and all the members agree on it, they will either create a new language or add a new word for their language. But is an agreement between members who live in certain areas, not in all regions of the world. Number three is language as vowel. Vowel, in definition, in effect, that the main medium of language is sound. Humans are able to produce a language by articulating sounds. Language is mostly spoken rather than written form. Thus, a language is produced with vocal tract. For example, humans can use their speech apparatus to produce sounds or words. They can use their lips, tongue, palate, or other organs to produce a letter such as B, F, M, P, V, H. Number four is language as a symbol. The definition of symbol on the fact that at least in some cases there is only minimal connection between the sounds people use and the object to which this sound refer. A symbol is also a sign that represents something else. Symbols can also be used as signs that represent something else. For example, the cross. The cross is a symbol or sign of Christianity around the world, such as the plus sign, which means the Red Cross or the hospital in general. Therefore, the symbol will give a different meaning to a certain area. In learning language, we are bound to learn also new vocabulary item by item, a sufficient testimony to this arbitrary symbolic characteristic of all language. Number 5 is language as human. The definition of human refers to the fact that this type of human interest system is only owned by humans and is very different from the communication system possessed by other life forms. In what ways is human language different from non-human communication system? This difference can be illustrated by the evolutionary process experienced by human species that have gone through and result from genetic characteristics that distinguish them from other species. Animals do not have a duality communication system like humans, namely a system of sound and meaning at the same time. But animals use discrete arbitrary signals to communicate with other animals. For example, a honeybee must perform its dance to communicate with other animals, while Brian must scream to warn his colleagues when he sees a tiger. Number 6 is language as communication. Language as communication is the language used by humans to communicate or chat with other people. In addition, language also allows people to say something to each other and express their communicative needs. Example include Robinson Crusoe's need for something or someone to deliver his speech, or the Trappist monks who devised sophisticated signaling system to avoid breaking their vows of eternal silence. Basically, communication is created since humans are born. Language is an element of society. It allows people to live, work, and play together, and also tells the truth but sometimes lies. Next point, which is about how did language originate. The capacity to manipulate language and symbols inevitably emerges as the space in the brain grows large and more complex. There might be indications the broadcast area, a brain region associated with language, was present in the brains of early hominids as long as 2 years ago. So humans have become very well adept to making speech sounds in a way that animals don't. And according to the language and brain involved together interactively. So the basic structure of the articulation apparatus appear unchanged over the last 60 years. That's all I have to say about the study language. Thank you everyone. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.